Well, I think you had an interesting stat from your 2025 State of Responsible AI report. Approximately 5% of companies report strong alignment between AI and business strategy. And I see that companies, they want to bring AI in because, they've heard, it kind of reminds me of the days of cloud, when cloud was starting out. It's like, we're all cloud now. We're all cloud now, right? The question wasn't being asked is like, why are we doing this? And what's the value we're getting out of this? Right. And so I think that's a very important point, sort of that alignment issue. It's like you have to kind of what it is you want to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's our state of responsible AI, where you got that. There's a couple other really great statistics in there as well about not just are they aligned, but make it from kind of a pilot stage into kind of a true operational nature. By the way, those numbers are backed up by a number of other studies out there. MIT released something just recently, again, where about 5% of AI pilots actually make it kind of out of that pilot stage.
You had it here. It was about 7% have mature model monitoring after deployment. And about 12% have fully integrated AI development plus deployment standards. Those are really low numbers.
Really low numbers, right? Where, I mean, 2 of the 3 are in single digits and the other one's pretty darn close, right? And so, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's about understanding the business outcome that you're looking to achieve prior to actually kind of kicking off an AI initiative, right? And in particular, the stat about 7% kind of have measure of model sort of effectiveness kind of coming out. I think that's a great sort of indicator that the first thing you should almost be setting is, hey, what's the outcome that we're looking for? What is that KPI? And how do I measure if I'm getting that? And if only 7% of the people even have that, that tells you why they're struggling getting from kind of a pilot phase into something that's delivering true ROI or business value, kind of to them. And you talked about the cloud example, and I love that one. And I think it applies there too. The digital transformation, I'll talk as an example, I think is true. The other part of this is a lot of times when people look at what am I doing with AI, they're looking at it as automation, right? They're just kind of saying, hey, here's a process I have. Maybe it's a good process, maybe it's a bad process. I don't know, right? But what I'm going to do is use AI to automate that process. And now what I've done is I've automated a bad process. And then I'm wondering why I'm not getting a better result at the end of the process than what I was getting when I had people doing it, right? And
you're just doing a bad process faster.
it's like when people were going to cloud and they said, hey, we're all cloud. They lifted and shifted out of their private data centers to the cloud, and then their costs went up and they didn't understand what was going on because cloud was supposed to be cheaper. If you're not doing transformation, as digital transformation is not digitizing your processes. You have to do the transformation part of it as well, right? And in an AI sort of return on investment, I would argue you need to think about it as how do I transform my business, not just how do I automate my business with AI. Otherwise, you're not going to get the outcomes and the results that are going to show you the return on investment.
I think a lot of the AI demand is actually very legitimate, because people ask me all the time, are we in an AI bubble? And it's like, yeah, but no, too, because I mean, you wouldn't necessarily, consume every scrap of RAM and every GPU in the world if it was just a financial bubble, right?
Absolutely. You're spot on. Look, I mean, is there a little bit of bubble? Sure. I'm sure there is, right? There's a hype cycle and all that good stuff. But there's meat there. There's legitimacy to what the opportunity presents. And I think your cloud example is a great analogy, right? And that is when people were just doing it to say they were cloud, right? Kind of this FOMO sort of portion to it, and they were lifting and shifting. They weren't really getting the benefit of cloud because they hadn't actually engineered their software to be cloud native, to take advantage of the unique features, functionality, capabilities that cloud offers distinct from what you could have within a private data center. And until they actually kind of went through that cycle and they got to the point of, I'm going to be cloud native, did they really get full investment? I think it's the same story here with AI, right? If you're just kind of coming in and you're saying, hey, and if all there was to AI is, I'm going to do what I'm doing now, but with using AI to get it done, I think it is a bubble, right? But people are already in the process of re-engineering. Some of the people are starting to do that transformation, re-engineering, how they work and making themselves AI native right? Kind of the cloud native equivalent, AI native in their approach to how they go about their business. That's what, to me, I can see it happening. With our customers, right, and how they're adopting some of our software. I can see it happening as the CIO and how we're adopting other suppliers and vendor software. That when you approach it from that right perspective, there is a there, right, and so there's legitimacy to what the AI potential is. I just think it's going to take people and companies maybe a little bit longer to get cloud or AI native than just simply saying we've got an AI chatbot, right? That's not the answer, right?
Well, and like just to go beat up that analogy to cloud again, you're right. I saw a lot of lift and shift happening, and then I saw a lot of repatriation. Like we got to get it out of the cloud. This is way too expensive, and I think there was actually a secondary market event that actually triggered this more like actually transformation aspect of it, and that was the VMware Broadcom acquisition.
Yes.
And everybody getting off of VMware, I think, has pushed people towards Kubernetes and things like that, and reevaluating their technology stack. I almost wonder if that something like that's going to happen in the AI space too, where there's going to be some transformative moment that really pushes all people in the right direction.
My version of kind of what I think that event could look like, I guess, right, is, and in fact, I would tell you, I think you've already seen some repatriation off of Gen AI LLM models, right, back, because especially in regulated industries, you're finding that there is hallucination, right? That there's inconsistency, that there isn't, some of the key responsible AI elements that you need in terms of explainability and auditability and things like that are present there. And so you've seen a repatriation off of LLMs back to, what people processes or whatever we would call them, I guess, in this case, to handle that. I think the opportunity and what you're starting to see is you're seeing a surge now in those smaller language models or those focused language models, where those offer the opportunity for shifting things out and having greater a set of controls and having a greater sense of responsible AI and a greater sense of measurement of the effectiveness of that for the task they're being asked to do. And there's going to be some sort of tipping point where there's, enough of those language models for enough use cases, for enough industries where that, there's a comfort level that not only the businesses have, but the regulators have, and the businesses customers have, which is an important element in all of this, that there's trust that would go there. That's going to, I think you'll see that swing back to the other direction, but closer to these focused language models that have a higher resiliency and reliability for the outcomes we're looking for.
Yeah, one thing I will say, I have never seen an industry move this fast. It's absolutely nuts.